Hi everybody, welcome to Cindy's Bitchin' Kitchen. Today we are making chocolate buttercream frosting. This is to go with the chocolate cake that I made in my last video. So I hope you watched it and you know what's coming. Let's look at the ingredients. So I'm going to use 4 cups of sifted confectioner's sugar, and I mean it. I use this flour sifter just for confectioner's sugar. You don't want lumps in your frosting, okay? And then 1 cup, 2 sticks of unsalted butter. And I talked to you yesterday about how you soften the butter by putting it in a warm microwave. No melting, just soft. A 1/2 cup of unsweetened cocoa, and I'm going to use Hershey's baking cocoa. 3 to 4 tablespoons of milk or heavy cream. I have mine measured out, and I use heavy cream. I almost always have heavy cream in the house, and if I don't think I'm going to use it, I put it into 1 cup containers and I freeze it, and it's just fine. Okay, 1/4 of a teaspoon of salt, a dash of vanilla, and I think that's it. I think we're ready to go. So I took the liberty of pre-sifting the confectioner's sugar. I've got more than 4 cups in this, but you never know. You may need a smidge more. There's nothing wrong with that. And you may need a smidge more of the cream. You know, you have to pay attention to how your product is coming along to know whether to tweak it a little more, a little less. I softened the 2 sticks of butter, put them in my mixer, and I've beat them for about 5 minutes with stops for scraping down the side, because the butter, you know, gets caught way up on the side and it's out of range of the mixing blades, and that's no good. So I stopped it a few times to scrape it down. And now I'm ready to start adding the powdered sugar. So I'm going to measure a cup at a time, and I'm only going to add a cup at a time. I'm not going to dump the whole thing in. I like to make sure every cup is well combined before I add the next one. So 1 cup, and yes, I spill a little bit. That's okay. Let's get it going. Maybe I'll add a splash of the heavy cream to help it dissolve. And now I'll prepare the second cup. Dump this in. A splash more of the heavy cream. And maybe about 1/2 of the cocoa. I'm eyeballing it. All right, get the next cup ready. Dump it in. That's 3. Push down the sides a little bit with my bowl scraper to make sure that there's no butter caught. heavy cream. On power level 2 on my KitchenAid. A little more. And get the 4th cup ready. All right, I can see on the bottom that there's some butter sticking. So I dropped the bowl down, and I'm going to go in and loosen it up with my bowl scraper. I might even take off the blade. Honestly, really get the edges loosened up. Yeah, see, there's butter caught all the way up high on the mixing blade. You know, no one said that making cakes and frosting cakes was going to be a walk in the park. There's work to be done, but the end result makes it worthwhile. And if you're like me, you love doing it. All right, let's put the blade back on. Wipe my hands off. Add my 4th cup of sugar. My last half a cup, or last of the half a cup of cocoa. Lift it up and start mixing. Add the rest. So I will have added 5 tablespoons of heavy cream. Now you get to decide if you need a little more or a little less. It's up to you to decide that. You know, the recipe is a good guideline, but you always have the ability to make changes. And you know, it's really thick. And that's the problem with chocolate frosting. Chocolate takes up a lot of space and you need more liquid. So I'm going for another tablespoon and a little more speed, going back up to 2. I still see some chunks of yellow. So now I'm going to take a closer look at it. You know, is it the right thickness? It's really thick. I don't want it quite that thick for my cake. So, taste it. Yummy. More heavy cream. So now we're up to 6, probably 7 tablespoons when I get done. All right, let's take the bowl off and get a better look at it. See how thick it is on the blade? spatula. Okay, this is really, really thick. And again, that's what happens with chocolate frosting. So I knew that I was going to need more of the milk or cream. So I need to make sure in the recipe that I attach to this video that it reflects that you're going to need that much more. I've still got some streaks of yellow, which means the butter, which means I need to mix it up a little bit more. So let's get going with that. If this was vanilla, I wouldn't be using, when I say vanilla, vanilla frosting, not chocolate frosting, I wouldn't be using as much of the dairy. Oh, I almost forgot to add a splash of vanilla extract. We certainly can't let that happen because I think vanilla extract is an incredibly delicious flavor. I think it's on tight. So now that we're going to add a little more cream, it's a good opportunity for me to add a little vanilla extract. I make my own vanilla extract, I make my own vanilla paste. If I say a teaspoon, I'm probably putting in more than that because I just love the taste of it so much. Okay, and now the cream. And the mix. Better. It's definitely better. Not as thick. Oh yeah. So I probably used about 10 tablespoons of heavy cream. You know, if you don't have heavy cream, use milk. Or you could even use half and half because that way it's half cream and half milk. Okay, so I am going to drop the bowl down, take off the blade. Wipe the blade down. Okay. It's time to get as much of the chocolate as I can off the blade because we don't want to waste it. And then I'm going to get the cake out. The cake has been in the freezer since I baked it, which has been about 24 hours. And I like to frost it directly from the freezer because it's going to hold up better to the frosting. You know, if it was all soft and room temperature, you're more apt to knock crumbs loose. Well, you frost it while it's frozen, and you're not going to have anywhere near as much of a problem with that. Okay. So, put that over there. Now I'm going to fill a piping bag. If you don't have piping bags, that's fine. You know, you just want to frost the cake. You use a knife, use a spatula. if you want to get a little more fancy, you go to the stores where they sell Wilton supplies, and you get your piping bags, and you get your offset spatula. See, it's all called offset. And you get everything you need to actually make it happen. So I have a bag sitting here. The glass is holding it up so I can fill it. I have found that one batch of frosting is enough for a 6-inch cake, but it's not enough for an 8-inch cake. I think for an 8-inch cake, you need a batch and a half at least. And is it because I put it on too thick? Well, I don't know, but why not? You know, the frosting is delicious. Why not put it on thick? And if you're not having a special filling, which I'm not, then you need enough in the middle. If you're doing a flat cake, like a 9x13, that doesn't have a middle, then you're probably fine with one batch of frosting. So let's get the cakes out of the freezer. I'm just going to reach over like this to the freezer. And here they are. This is what they looked like when I took them out of the pans yesterday. And now they're nice and firm. You know, I can do whatever I want with them. A crumb. So I have a nice turntable, and I have an 8-inch wrapped cardboard board. This paper you can buy again at the stores that sell Wilton products. It doesn't stain, the grease doesn't stain it. It's nice and solid. So I always put a little dab of frosting on the top of the board to help the first layer stick. Like that. Hopefully I've centered it. I think I have. Move some things out of the way. There. And now I'm going to take my offset spatula and spread frosting in the middle. I like this turntable stand because it's so much easier to get all sides. You may not have one, and that's okay. Before I had something like this, I would set it on a towel. That way you can kind of move it around with the towel. And that worked pretty good until I got fancy. All right. Now, I'm going to put the top layer on. And I kind of eyeball it. Since I did not trim the tops on these, I kind of want to make it level. So I eyeball it. When I took it out of the pans, they looked pretty level because remember, I used those baking strips. So, all right, so now, is it level? Is my kitchen level. I'm going to take the bag that has frosting in it, squeeze it down. I've got a great big tip on the end, which puts out a flat strip of frosting. And I'm going to go around the sides and the top with this. If I can get it to come out. You know, it's still hard. I could have put more cream in to make it thinner. Another thing that will help is my hands tend to get warm, and after I handle a frosting bag for a while, the frosting inside tends to get soft, which in this case is a good thing, I suppose. But I'm just going to have to squeeze it because we don't want to stand here all day waiting. Let's do the top. Okay. Now let's go back and work on the sides. There we go. It's moving better now. And we did the bottom half of the sides. Now we're going to do the top half. And you're probably saying to yourself, well, that looks like crap. How come you consider that frosting a cake? Well, I'm not dumb. The idea is you get the frosting everywhere you want it, and then you take knives and offset spatulas and other tools, and you make it nice and even. All right, I ran out of frosting just in the right place. So, there. Now, what I like to do now is I like to take some hot water, and I boiled my tea kettle earlier. So I'm going to take this cup and I'm going to put some nice hot water in it. Because that way when I use the spatula to rub the frosting around, you know, to smooth the frosting, I can then stick it in this and wipe it clean. And the heat helps the frosting move easier. So look. Now I'm smoothing the top. There's a glob of butter right there that didn't get mixed in. Shame on me. And again, I'm wiping the frosting off into the bowl, and then I'm sticking the offset spatula in the hot water. And now I'm doing the sides, smoothing it out, trying to make it look neat. I cut well, I didn't cut it. I got an 8-inch cake circle to put the 6-inch cake on because, you know, you always want a lip. And if I have enough frosting and I want it to be fancy, I could put some nice design around the bottom of it. And I don't know, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Haven't decided yet. But hopefully you can see that it's smoothing, that the bumps are getting smoothed out, that the gaps are getting filled in thanks to a nice warm spatula. And you know, sometimes there might be a gap and I might need a little more frosting, but fortunately I saved a little in the bowl. So it's not a big deal for me to reach in and go, yeah, I need a little bit in this spot. And there, I filled in that spot. Or on the top. There, I filled it in on the top. So I'm just going to keep going around and around until I'm happy with it. The idea is that the butter was beaten enough so that there isn't any more lumps in it, that it's got a nice creamy consistency, that you use the right combination of confectioner's sugar and dairy, milk, heavy cream, half and half, to get it as thick or as thin as you want it to be. And with chocolate, you always need twice as much dairy as you do for vanilla frosting. And then after that, you just frost your cake until you're happy with it. And people will love it. I've been very fortunate that I have had a lot of people enjoy the cakes that I bake, and I enjoy making them and knowing that somebody's going to eat it and be happy. So that's today. Today's chocolate cake, and I hope you liked it. I hope you aren't afraid to make buttercream. I will attach the recipe in the comments, and please leave me a comment, ask me a question. I'll be glad to answer. So, bye for now. Thanks for visiting my kitchen.